Welcome to the Surviving Siblings podcast. I'm your host, Maya Roffler. As a surviving sibling myself, I knew that I wanted to share my story, my brother's story. I lost my brother to a homicide in November 2016, and after going through this experience, I knew that I wanted to share my story and his story. And now it's your turn to share your stories.
Today I have, of course, another incredible surviving sibling with me. I want to welcome Brennan to the show. Brennan, welcome.
Hi guys, thanks for having me, Maya.
It is my pleasure. Today, Brennan is going to be sharing about her brother, Jackson, who she lost back in 2019. So, Brennan, before we go into how you lost Jackson and quite an incredible story you have for us today, take us back to childhood with Brennan, Jackson, your family. Tell us a little bit about you guys.
Yeah, so we grew up in the Mississippi Delta, a very small town. Jackson and I were 6 years apart. And we had that typical sibling dynamic. He definitely argued I was the big sister that wanted things a certain way, always perfect, and he was the tornado that came through that wanted to mess everything up. But our parents got divorced when we were 14. So when I was 14. And so when they got divorced, Jackson spent most of the time splitting between the two houses. I most of the time stayed with my mom. So I think that during the divorce, that had a lot of strain on our relationship. He couldn't understand, why I didn't want to go stay with my dad or why I wanted to be with my mom. And even though he had the same choice. So fast forward, to college, our relationship starts to, grow a little bit. Like we still have our moments of banter and the argumentative side and then the sweet sides as well. He is a country boy through and through. I was definitely more of the outgoing, wanted to go to the parties, have fun, stuff like that. My brother was the one that wanted to take over the family business, help my dad with his work. Just your typical Southern boy thing. He truly loved hunting, being out in the outdoors, working hard, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. And I'm sure it was really challenging because you did have an age gap. You said, 6 years between the two of you? So, I mean, you being the elder sibling, which I can connect with.
Yeah.
You picked mom and you were with mom and that's where you aligned. And then coming from a broken home, which I can relate to as well, he has a different perspective, right?
For sure.
Kind of bouncing between the two homes and I'm sure managing those relationships. I'm sure that was a lot and that was heavy for
different
him.
relationships with each. We both had very significantly different relationships with our parents.
Right. Yeah. So, and you mentioned that it evolved a little bit when you went off to college. So he was still quite young when you went off to school.
Yeah. So when I got to college, he was entering high school. So with him going into high school, he was definitely maturing a little bit more and coming into his adulthood, I guess.
Mm.
So we were able to bond over similar things. As all our lives, I was exiting a time period in my life when he was entering that same experience. So he couldn't always wrap his head around that I did understand where he was coming from or understanding the things that he was going through and wanting to be there for him or hey, being the big sister that's hey, we probably shouldn't do this because this is what could happen. And him not understanding, hey, let me live my life.
Mm-hmm. As older siblings, we totally understand that because we think we know better, right? And in a lot of cases we do, but we don't know it all, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, take us forward in time then. So take us to 2019, which is when you lost your brother Jackson. So tell us a little bit about what life was like in 2019 for you guys.
Yeah. So in 2019, the year started out pretty normal. Jackson was working for an electrician. He was in college at this point. He was he wanted to become a lineman. So he was looking into going to school for that. We probably hadn't talked to each other in about 6 months leading up to his passing. We had gone on the lake probably back in September of the year before, like our last little family lake trip with my dad and everything. And then I saw him at Thanksgiving in 2018. And that was actually the last time that I saw him before he passed. June 19th, it was a Wednesday, I got a phone call from my dad. It was storming really bad in the Mississippi Delta. And I was just thinking my dad was calling to check on me. He typically does. I bartended, so I would work late nights and things like that. I got the phone call about 10:30 and I answer it. It's my dad, and he's just screaming. He's screaming that my brother is dead. You need to come here right now. And my initial reaction was like, hold on. What are you talking about? Have you called the police? Have you called 911? He's frantically screaming, yes. What are they going to do? They're not going to be able to do anything. I need you to get here right now. Well, luckily I had a friend over, and he had actually ironically lost his brother probably 6 years prior to a very crazy car accident.
Wow. Okay.
And it was crazy. I looked at him and I said, my brother is dead. And he looked at me and said, get in the truck. And we got in the truck and drove. I was only lived about 35 minutes away from my dad, just the town over. But with the storm and how badly everything was, all the trees and power lines and stuff down, it took us about an hour and a half to get there. As we were on our way there, I kept calling 911. I kept calling the sheriff's department. My friend was calling his contacts with the sheriff's department. In a small town, everybody kind of knows everybody. So you have your first responders' phone numbers most of the time. So we're both calling, just texting, trying to get in touch with someone. I mean, we weren't talking to each other the whole way there. Like, we're both on the phone just trying to get in touch. We're not having any luck. By the time we get there, we can't even pull, like, my driveway to my dad's house is probably a quarter of a mile. Like, once you turn off the road into the driveway, and we couldn't even get through the gate. When you turned into the driveway, all you saw were just trees down everywhere. And so as soon as we got out of the truck, I don't even think it stopped. I jumped out and just started running. I mean, it was still pouring down rain, couldn't see anything. There were a couple of firefighters there, but the full first responders had not shown up yet, mostly because there were two entrances to where my dad lived. He lived out in the middle of nowhere. So the main entrance that the GPS will typically take you, the bridge has been out for years and had not been replaced. And when my dad called 911, he told them not to go that way. They still took that way. So the other way around past the airport, it was flooded. So it took them even longer to get through there. I was coming from the completely opposite direction, so I had no trouble. So I get out, I start running, I find my dad. I mean, he's shivering, he's shaking. I just remember how cold he was. I remember how just like soaking wet. It looked like he had just gotten out of the lake. I grab him, hug him. He's just crying. We get him in a truck and turn the heat on. I mean, it's the middle of summer. It's June in the Mississippi Delta, so you know it's humid, but with all that rain and stuff, your body is just in shock and just freezing.
So I want to like pause you here though,
Yeah.
for everyone listening, because you've done such an amazing job about sharing like what's happening. But I want everyone to know there was obviously a major storm coming through here.
Yes.
Like that's what was going on. And so as you're arriving and as your dad is sharing this information, like you're kind of in the midst of like, what storm was this, Brennan? Like what was happening at that time? Like, was it a major storm that we know about, or was it just kind of a freak thing, or what was happening, just to kind of paint the picture for us?
Yeah, it was a freak thing. All the news channels were saying that the winds and the tornadoes, there was a tornado watch. The news channels and everything were saying that the winds were coming out of a completely opposite direction than what they actually were. And leading up to the accident, we had a lot of rain. So where my dad's house is, it sits on a creek bank. And with all that rain and the Mississippi mud, it just softens and softens. And when my brother and my dad got a tornado warning on their phone, they went to the front door of the house and were about to evacuate. My dad turns around and runs to the other room, probably about 8 feet away, to grab our family dog, and grabs him, turns around, and as he's turning around, he said he hears this explosion, and it's a tree that goes straight through the middle of the house, lands through the front door where my brother was standing.
Waiting for your dad to come back with the dog so that they could evacuate.
So they could leave, yeah. So he immediately stops what he's doing and starts digging. There's nothing that he could do. I mean, when he called me, he was in the midst of digging and trying to get him out of there. And it was just hard. Like he couldn't. I mean, I believe without a doubt my dad fought for everything that he could to try. But with that storm coming through, it ended up being, there were 5 big oak trees that had fallen down in our yard. The main one that hit the house, it was right behind the house on the creek bank, and the winds hit it just right, especially with after all that rain, the soil was so wet.
Like you were mentioning earlier, the softening of the soil. And so it hit and then it came, wow.
Completely uprooted. I mean, all these trees, they didn't snap in half. They were completely uprooted. And the tornado never physically touched the ground. It was like it came over the trees and just ripped it and just fell.
We hope you're enjoying this incredible episode of the Surviving Siblings podcast. I'm your host, Maya Roffler. We'll be back in just a minute after hearing from our incredible sponsor. If you've lost a sibling, trust me, I know exactly how you feel. I'm Maya. I'm the host of the Surviving Siblings podcast, but I'm also the founder of Surviving Siblings Support. I know that going through this experience is extremely difficult, whether you've lost a brother like me, a sister, or perhaps more than one sibling. Trust me, we know exactly how you feel. So that's why I started our Patreon account. You can click below to find out more about our Patreon. If you join our Patreon group, it'll give you just a little bit of extra support that you need along your journey as a bereaved sibling, or as we like to call it, a surviving sibling. We offer monthly support groups. We offer a free copy of our grief guide that is actually found on Amazon. It's called the Grief Guide for Surviving Siblings. We also offer direct messaging to our community and to me for extra support. And we have incredible events. We have workshops throughout the year that you'll get access to, and you'll also have access to our summit that happens annually. And so much more as you'll connect with a community of surviving siblings that understand the journey of losing a sibling. You can click below to join us today and also check out some additional VIP features that we offer. I hope to see you in the group, and until then, keep on surviving, my surviving siblings.
That night, it was crazy. It kind of felt like I was in a movie. Like it didn't seem real at first.
Right.
I don't think it really set in until after the funeral, because it was just such a freak accident. I mean, we grew up all our lives not training, but doing drills for this kind of stuff in school, at home. Like I remember being a child and us having to go, living in that house, and us having to go out to the bridge at the end of our driveway and take cover under there because there was a warning. And we slept out there outside underneath the bridge all night, waiting just in case. It wasn't new to us to take cover and to be aware of storms coming through. That's very common in the Mississippi, and I'm sure really in the South.
Yes. I'm from the South too, so I get it.
Yeah.
Midwest, South. Yeah. Between the hurricanes and the tornadoes, you know what you're doing. I want to ask you this just to bring a little levity, and then I want to go back to where we were earlier because I took you off track a little bit. But do you remember doing those tornado drills in school? Or maybe I think I'm older than you, Brennan. But do you remember where they would have us in the hallway with the books and okay, yeah, tucked with our books or under the desk? And I'm like, what the looking back as adults, aren't you what
really
the heck would that would have right? What would that have done? Right? What you guys were doing under the bridge and stuff, for sure, that's a different story. But our book or our desk or the hallway, did it really? I don't know, right? Do you think back and laugh a little bit?
I 100% remember that. Yeah, I think they would always say that the walls are so reinforced that they would protect us. I'm like, these walls would fall down on us.
I think that was a way for them to train us a little bit and if it did happen, keep us from maybe all storming out of the school and like
And just
running for an
running away.
actual bridge or something.
Yeah,
Right. I had to bring a little levity to that for sure. I was like,
absolutely.
maybe Brennan remembers this too, because I do. Because I look back on myself and kind of laugh because I'm like, pretty sure the only safe space is like really like a basement or like a hatch area where you actually are like
Yes.
a safety zone. But no, thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to give all of our incredible listeners like that context because you were just so beautifully describing like the emotion in your father. So your father, so to tie this together, your father was calling you as he was trying to dig your
Dig.
brother out.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So you show your friend again. I think these people are in our lives for these like magical reasons, right,
Without a
Brennan? So
doubt.
right. So your friend is ironically, your friend is there with you or divine intervention, whatever we believe in,
Yeah.
taking you there. You jump out of the car. Your dad's there. He's shivering in June, which I'm a Southern girl. Okay. We're in a heat
Yeah.
situation right now as we're recording this in August. So yeah. So then you're there with your dad. And what's going on? Like, is your brother still trapped when you get there?
Yeah.
There's responders there. Tell us what's happening at that moment.
So when I get there, yes, my brother is still trapped underneath the tree. I mean, he has
And you saw
definitely
this.
definitely passed. I couldn't see him, or
Okay.
like I wasn't close enough to the tree to realize like what part of the house it was necessarily yet, anything like that. Just when I found my dad, we got him in the truck there. He's contained, calmed down for a moment. I have to take a moment. I remember just going and like finding ironically a tree that's still standing in the yard and just kicking it over and over again and just like thinking to myself, what is going on? What happened? How did we get here? And then my friend who had gotten me there, he comes and he grabs me and he goes, you need to pull it together and you need to go be there for your dad right now. So I pulled it together and I went and got in the truck with my dad and I just sat there and just held him. Just held him. My mom and all this, she worked 3.5 hours away in Natchez, Mississippi. At the time, I did not know if she knew or if my dad had called her. I just knew I couldn't call her. I couldn't. I was like, my plan was to tell her tomorrow, the next day. That was my plan. Like I didn't have a plan, but that was the little bit of the plan that I had. It turns out my dad did call her. She was on her way, but she definitely was in denial, did not believe it. Once the firemen and the coroner showed up and they were able to finally get my brother from underneath the tree, it was probably 3 a.m. I got the call at 10:30, so we were there for a while. Wow. The plan after that was to go to the hospital. My mom refused to go anywhere else. She refused to meet us anywhere else. She was going to the hospital. So we all loaded up in the truck and went straight to the hospital.
But let me ask you this, Brennan, before we go to the hospital, when they were moving the tree and moving were you there for all of this and you were seeing this happen? Or like, what was
So
like,
I
what was
I
going on
wasn't
with
able
you?
to see like because of all the trees that were down, there were multiple trees in front of the house that I couldn't see them actually getting him out. It was more so I was just trying to calm my dad down and not even look in that direction. They wouldn't even let us go up to a certain point to the house. Like, because when I first got in there, I'd ran out and I'd gone all the way up to like almost where I thought like the front porch was, but there was a tree in the way. And that's when they were pushing me back and like I had my dad and grabbed him and then we went and got into the truck. So we just sat in the truck the entire time. Slowly but surely, people started to show up that knew my dad, that were family, that knew like us, because some of the first responders were also my brother's friends, my dad's friends, and hard on them, hard on
Yeah.
them.
You're from a small town. Everybody
Yeah,
knows everybody. I totally get that. Yeah, I was just curious because I can't even imagine how traumatizing that part of this, even if you couldn't see it, you just know that's
that is
going on. So,
happening. Yeah.
right, right. Okay, so you guys pile in and you go to the hospital.
We go to the hospital. We're probably there for about 15 minutes before my mom shows up. I remember her getting there and I think she saw straight through me, honestly. It was like a one track mind. Where's my son? Like,
Mm-hmm.
where is he? Screaming. Where is he? Luckily, so we had some like family friends there that like grabbed her and is consoling her. I'm just standing there like away from everybody because I didn't know what to do. Like, it was just like one of those things, like everybody's consoling my parents, and I'm just like, I'm okay at this moment, but I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I need to do. I don't know who I need to be in this moment. And I remember like we were all there for probably 30 minutes, and then this part's a blur. Somehow we just all decided we were going to go part ways. Everybody's going to go to their hotel, home, whatever. I went to my cousin's house with my dad. We didn't sleep. We never went to sleep. I think once we finally got there, my dad just started calling everybody he could think of at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, calling everybody, telling them what happened, and just screaming, crying as he's telling them. And then the next morning we meet back at the house at probably like 7:30, 8:30. Sunny. It's so sunny and so hot. Rainbows everywhere. I mean, but like pulling up in that driveway and just seeing the house and seeing the damage, it was just like something out of a movie. Truly something out of a movie. I remembered like avoiding the front porch and avoiding the front door, which you couldn't get into the house that way. You either had to climb up like through one of the like side walls, but the back porch was still intact. So I walked through the back door and through the house, and like we salvaged what we could, like furniture, clothes, anything in the house that we could, because it was mostly the living room, dining room, kitchen, and my brother's bedroom that were smashed. So yeah, I just avoided the front area until they got the backhoe in there like pretty early that morning to tear it all out, so that myself nor none of my family had to like see anything, especially in the daylight.
So let me ask you this too, Brennan. So did you guys, because, some people listening may have been through an experience with a tornado or a hurricane. These are kind of similar things that happen and how houses get destroyed. Did you guys, when you went back that morning, did you have to get the okay? Because I've heard that from people before. We've obviously never told a story on this show
Right.
before about losing a sibling, but I've definitely known people, being a Southern gal like you, like we are not, it's not the first time we've experienced like a hurricane or a tornado or something that will take our house out, right? So, which is very unfortunate, but it's a part of being in this environment. But sometimes there's been like you can't go there until this. So did you have to get an all clear, or like, because it could be dangerous sometimes to go in when,
Right.
right.
To my knowledge, no. I remembered us just changing clothes and immediately, I don't even think we changed clothes actually. I think we just went with what we had on our backs and just showed up. Now, the detective and everybody, they were there the night before after it happened, questioning my dad, doing their due diligence for sure. But I almost am positive I remember them saying, okay, I got everything I need to know. Y'all are free to go at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning, yeah, we just showed up. There was nobody showed up like asking us questions like what we were doing, besides just family and friends there to bring in their equipment to like help us tear the house down and remove the trees and
Yeah.
all that.
And the storm had settled and passed at that
Yeah.
point too. So you guys were clear to go in. But you said this so well earlier. It is like a movie. It's like you go through all this chaos and then you go, I'm sure that's how you felt as well
Mm-hmm.
that day when you went in. And it's like no, like pun intended, I guess, or something
Yeah,
around those lines. But like the dust did settle for
it
you. And then
did.
you go back in there and it's like, and so while this is happening, Brennan, your brother is in the hospital still, right? Or they declared him.
They declared him dead on site, but the funeral home was closed. They, for some reason, they could not intake him to the funeral home. They had to take him to the hospital to keep him overnight. My mom never saw him that night. He was not in any shape to be seen. He was declared deceased at the scene for sure. They said it was instant. Like there was no preventing it or saving him in that sense. But my mom did demand to see him, and she did. After, I mean, they bandaged him up and did what they could do to make him presentable for her. I couldn't. There was no way.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Yeah. So you guys are at the house getting what you can. What happened next? What happened next? Did you guys have a celebration of life, a funeral? Like what were the days afterwards like? Because what a whirlwind. Like your father and your brother are just evacuating because of a tornado, and Your whole life's changed
Yeah.
forever.
After that, the next day, we cleaned up everything that we could at the house. I think around 2 o'clock that afternoon, we went to the funeral home. My parents couldn't agree on what they wanted to do, let alone like really function in that moment. I knew that my brother wanted to be cremated. Him and I had talked about it briefly before. My mom really wanted that. My dad really wanted him buried. So it was a lot of back and forth of what are we going to do? And I just kind of took charge. I don't know what came over me. I just told them they needed to keep their mouths closed.
I know what came over you. Eldest child syndrome, as I like to
Yeah.
call it. Guilty.
I did it. My mom and I, like, we were the biggest thing that we had trouble like deciding what we were going to do is where we were going to hold the funeral, like hold the services, all the memorial, all that. Because we weren't going to do an open casket. He was going to be cremated. And, that'd be that. Well, we ended up having the funeral at a Baptist church. It was the largest church in the area. They said, I think their max capacity was 500 seats, sat 500 in their sanctuary. And that was also the church that my brother went to Sunday school with our nanny and our papa. That's who he went to church with. That was their church. I grew up going to that church as well. So it just kind of made sense. And we had a longtime family friend, a childhood friend of mine's dad, who was the preacher there, used to be the preacher there. He was going to do the funeral procession for us and everything. So we did that. It ended up being standing room only. Every seat in there was full. So then I would say about probably 200 more people were standing up in the back areas of the church.
Wow.
It
That's
was
awesome.
crazy. When my mom said that we would need a bigger venue, I was like, really? You think that many people are going to come? She was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. I just wasn't expecting it. I really wasn't.
But did you feel like I would feel so touched if I
Oh,
saw
it
that many people
was.
show up?
Oh
Were
my
you like, okay, mom, you were snaps to mom, like you were right. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And like seeing some of my high school friends, like a lot of my high school friends had younger siblings as well that actually graduated with my brother. They were in the same class, grew up together. So it's like we all grew up together. They showed up and showed their respects to me and my family. And I hate how funerals bring people together when ones that you haven't seen in years and stuff like that. But it is nice to get to see and like catch up and kind of reminisce on the old days, especially.
Yeah. I love that you said that. I don't know if I've really talked about that a lot on an episode before, Brennan, but that's a good thing to dial in on your episode because it is such a, I guess, bittersweet is a way we'll say it here, but like it's more bitter than sweet, I would say. The
Yeah.
fact that like it has to take a loss like that, but I've experienced that as well with other losses. We didn't have a big funeral for my brother, which you guys know from listening to my story, but I've listened to incredible stories like yours, and I just know there were so many people that felt a little cheated out of that. But at the end of the day, it was my family's decision, and it is what it is. And like, but eh, knowing that there were that many people that wanted that, like the messages were so overwhelming that I received. So I can definitely like put myself in your shoes and feel that like it's a moment, right? It's a moment. But like I was saying, a little more emphasis on the bitter than the sweet
Yeah.
because it's like, oh my God, like I totally get what you're saying. Like it takes this kind of tragedy to bring us all together. And death in general and a loss like what we've all been through, all of you guys listening, and of course Brennan and I losing a sibling, it just puts life into a whole different perspective for you.
100%.
And I
100%. It definitely does. And I think people really underestimate how much grief truly does change somebody.
yeah, absolutely. So you have this funeral for your brother
Yeah.
and wow, standing room only, I love it, like,
Standing
all
room
honoring
only.
Jackson, and so, tell us what happened after. How are you doing? How do you've got a divorced parent dynamic, there's a
Yeah.
lot going on here, so walk us through what happened after you had this incredible celebration, which is difficult, right? But
Yeah.
you see how loved he was, how loved he is, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but to see it for other people can be a really interesting and cool experience.
It
But
definitely
bittersweet.
is. Definitely
Yeah.
is. It's kind of exhilarating almost.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the days after, it was weird. We had his funeral on a Sunday. I was typically off work on Mondays, but we ended up having like it was like the baseball World Series that year or something, or the playoffs or something like that. And so the restaurant that I worked at, we ended up having a small like little baseball party. I went. I needed to get out of the house. Everybody had left. Like all my friends that had come to town as well had left, and I was like, I'm not ready to be completely alone, but I really don't want to be surrounded by everybody. So like the restaurant that I worked at, there were areas for me to go and still watch the game and like be away, that kind of thing. So I immediately did that and I went back to work on Tuesday. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't feel like it was, initially, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to take time more than what I already had. Like I just had a whole weekend off. That was unheard of in the restaurant industry. Like had 4 days off. I need to get back to work. So I went back to work and immediately started helping my dad rebuild.
That
The
was my next
plan.
question. I was like, what was going on with Dad's house? So yeah, you just stole the thoughts out of my head. That's perfect. Yeah. So wow. Okay.
So my dad's plan was to rebuild. He wanted to do. It was a mobile home that we lived in originally that he had.
Yeah.
The plan when they got that mobile home was to build a house. It was just temporary, but then my parents got divorced.
Stressful.
Yeah. So he wanted to do a metal building, and so that was the plan. He sat down with some buddies while he was staying there for a couple days and the weeks after, like because he didn't necessarily have a place to stay. They drew up some plans of kind of how he wanted it. He wanted the exact same layout of the house. I get it. So that's essentially what we did. I spent the next 2.5 years building, and right after 2020 is when COVID hit. So it was harder to build. It was harder to find supplies. Things were super expensive. So it took a minute. I seriously never thought it was going to end. Really didn't.
I'm sure I finished out a new build house in 2020 and it was a journey, my friend. It was a journey. So I
Yeah.
understand. I mean, he was starting fresh too. I can't even imagine.
From the
Everything.
ground
I mean,
up.
lumber was up. Everything was, I mean, it was a journey for me, trust me.
Yes.
So I get it. I can't. And then
Very
to be
much.
grieving, I was not freshly grieving at the time. I was grieving. I always say we're
Yeah.
grieving, but like he was fresh in grief. You were fresh
Fresh.
in grief. And the pandemic hit. And that was something that stood out to me about your story too. It's like 2019, you lost your brother in a way that has nothing to do with COVID, but you were actively grieving
Yeah.
going into the start of the pandemic. I mean, you're fresh in your grief,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like, let's be
For
real.
sure.
9 months after you lost your brother, COVID hit. I mean, that's a lot of trauma to be going through. It's a lot for your family.
Yeah. No,
Mhm.
definitely, without a doubt.
So when did the house finally get the finishing touch? When did it? I'm curious.
So we finished it in 2021.
That's awesome.
Yes, 2021. I believe it was fall of 2021. He moved back in. And so ready to rock and roll. Obviously, like little things here and there, but it was ready to be lived in for sure.
Mhm.
So yeah, he moved back in. I took that next, probably maybe it was 6 months. I really didn't have a plan. I got a phone call. My mom decided that she was going to take some time away from work after, in between the house being finished and then the February that I got a phone call from her asking me to move across the country.
Wow.
She had taken some time from work and because she went back to work immediately and then life just started to take its toll. There are a lot of things that happened in that time that really affected her, and she needed the time away. She needed the time to step away. My mom was in a very like demanding job, chief financial officer of a casino.
Oh my
So
God, that's a very demanding job. And then she went through the pandemic in that role?
yes,
Whoa,
she
that's,
sure
yeah,
did.
a lot.
She sure did. So in between that time, she took some time to herself. She went to Minnesota and stayed with her sister for a little while, my aunt. And then she decided that she was thinking about moving back to Vegas. She's originally from Las Vegas, and that's how she got in the casino business.
I was going to say that makes sense now. Very
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
So my uncle had a rental house available. decided that she was going to do it. She called me. She's like, I know you've been wanting to kind of leave and get out of Mississippi and try something new. And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, do you want to come to Vegas? And I said, yeah. I didn't even tell her I needed to think about it. I said, yes. So the plan was for this to kind of be our joy journey, and we were going to do it together. It was going to be a fresh start for her, a fresh start for me. So in 2 months, I packed up what I needed to pack up. I sold basically everything I owned, and I drove across the country and moved out here.
And this was in 2021?
2022.
2022. Yeah. So
Yeah.
your dad got the house built. She took some time. Then, oh my God, that's wow. Okay. So, and how was that? So interesting. I love that we're talking about this, Brennan. And I
Yeah.
love that you're sharing this because there's a lot of folks. I know you found me on TikTok. A lot of people find me on TikTok, but I do stuff on Instagram. I have a
Yeah.
private Facebook group. There's a lot of resources, as a lot of you guys know. We have our private sharing group as well through Patreon. So like I interact with people in all different ways. But a lot of folks, when they're newly bereaved, and when I say newly bereaved, guys, I'm talking 5 years or less. I'm not talking 1 day. Okay, like newly bereaved is 5 years or less. That's what I've been informed of by therapists, by my incredible guests. So there you go. But a lot of people will say to me, I think I need to move. I think I need to change a house. I think I need to change a city. I think I need to. So I love that this is a part of your story because I think it can be quite inspirational for everyone listening, whether you thought about this, you think you might need to do this. So
Yeah.
I am on the edge of my seat. How was this move for you? I want to know.
The move itself, like, it was exhilarating. It was very exciting, very scary. I've lived here for 3 years now. I love Vegas. I love the person I have become since moving here. I love the growth that I have done since being here as well. But it hasn't been the easiest 3 years either. I spent the first 2.5 years after my brother's passing being there for my dad day in and day out. I mean, I was there helping him build that house weekly. And then now it's like I just shifted gears and now I'm in a new city, but I'm there for my mom. And at this point, my mom's not working. She's still taking her time. And it's hard to see your parents struggle with their grief and with emotion and stuff like that. And I will say I've had a front row seat and seeing how differently my mom and my dad have grieved and handled things
Right.
is crazy in the sense of like, it's just very different.
Tell us about that. I want to hear about that, Brennan. I want to hear
Yeah.
about that. So tell us
So-
about that because so I want to dial into this first and then we're going to go off into that because this is something I hear about all the time.
Yeah.
And there's so many things in your story that I just think you guys listening are going to appreciate. But you were saying, so I want to dial into this first, then we're going to split off into mom and dad and talk about the differences. But you were saying that going to Vegas has been exhilarating. It's been great, but it hasn't been the easiest. But I think that's okay. And I think that's good because I think
100%.
it's growth and it's just another part of your chapter. And I think it's really important that people hear this because while it might not have been the easiest thing and it's not been the easiest 3 years, do you still feel like it was the right decision for you to start kind of fresh and start this journey? That's what I would ask you about this.
Absolutely. I wouldn't change it.
See? And that, like, when I get this question, like, should I start fresh? Should I move? And I'm like, if you feel that, just like when your mom called, you knew. You were like,
Yeah.
it's time. I needed a fresh. And I think maybe you felt that way from just everything I'm taking in about your story. It's like you spent the time with your dad. You got to be with your dad and be with him grieving and help him rebuild. And it was kind of a nice progression to be like, okay, dad's rebuilt. He's always going to be grieving and that's going to be a thing. But like I was there for him. Maybe it's time for me to go be with mom now. Is that kind of what you went through, Brennan?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah, I'm picking up
exactly what I went through.
Yeah.
And just a side note on this too, I did a road trip before I had made this decision to move, before it was even a thought about me moving, the November before I got the phone call asking me to move. So in 2021, I did a road trip to Colorado with a couple friends. And one of my things was I wanted to see a medium while I was out west. And I went and saw a medium.
Oh, I want to hear about this. Okay. So you went on a trip and you'd never been to Colorado before.
Never had been to Colorado. Did a road trip with a couple of friends, was going out there with a friend that lived there, and then I was switching and meeting another friend that lives there and going to visit them for a little bit. So I went and saw a medium. I did a lot of research trying to find one. I just felt like I needed to just a little bit more understanding behind everything, like where and direction for me on what to do, where to go, like how do we move forward from here?
Were you reaching first of all, I just want to commend you. I think it's so important. Look, we have people who listen to this show that are atheist, agnostic, all the way to super religious or
Yeah.
perhaps spiritual. And that's what we pride ourselves on with this show is like it's very inclusive from all backgrounds and stuff. But I love that you shared that you did your research because I think regardless of what path or what whomever you're going to go see for anything, whether it's therapy or a spiritual
Yeah.
person like a medium, do your research like that.
Absolutely.
So thank you for saying that. It always kills me when I'm on TikTok and people like come into the room and they're asking me questions like I'm a medium. I'm like, please do your research. You're grieving. You're so raw. You know
Well,
what I mean? Like,
yes.
so do
Yes.
your
And
research. Protect yourself. That's
we don't
so
want false hope or false narrative either. I
mm-mm.
want it to be laid out straight in front of me what it is.
Absolutely.
I had a hard time. I'm not going to lie. I did have a hard time finding a medium in the area that I was going to be in. I was in Colorado Springs. I
Okay.
was
Yeah.
looking. I found somebody, this man who he specialized in paranormal investigations as well as mediumship. So he did a lot more of his work in his business had to do with the paranormal investigations and like that kind of thing, but he did also offer this and he had like some good reviews. So I did not reach out to him over any social media. I picked up the phone and called.
My girl. Yeah.
Yes.
You guarded
Um
yourself. Yep.
Guarded myself. I didn't want there to be any possibility of them Googling anything. Like even if you Google my story, there wasn't a lot of news coverage on it. It was
Mhm.
very like not non-existent almost. It was weird.
Right.
And some of the stories that were there, it's misinformation. It says it happened in Texas, but all the details are talking about my brother and it's definitely not.
Yeah.
So I went to him and there were hit or miss things definitely in the session, but there were a few things that stood out to me the most. And those 3 or 4 main things. There's no way, like in the beginning of it, he's like, I'm getting a lot of like head and upper body like pain and trauma. That's how my brother passed. Like it immediately clicked.
Mhm.
And then there were just some other instances where he's like, he made a promise to your dad. Like he kept talking about this promise. And that promise to my dad was that he promised my dad that he would take care of him. He'd be there for him. He'd like help with the business, help with the land because we have a pecan orchard, like harvesting that each year and things like that. So it made sense. Like
Mhm.
just weird things. And then one
Yep.
of the things at the end of it, he's like, "You're planning on moving, aren't you?" And I said, "It's always been in the back of my mind, but I haven't made any like movement towards that. No." He's like, "Well, the place that you're thinking about moving to, you should definitely do it." And the place that I was thinking about was Vegas. This is before my mom moved out here. My grandmother was here. So I was
This
like,
was, like, in the back of you, and he was bringing something out. See, when you go to someone who is gifted, I personally do believe in that. I
yeah,
do.
it
Yeah.
was so strange. And so when my mom asked me, I think that's why I didn't hesitate. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing it.
And you know what a lot of people would maybe think listening to this who are skeptics, which because I think you should have skepticism, because I
Mhm,
think you do too,
for
Brennan.
sure.
There's skepticism in me, but I also believe because I do think people have this gift. I really do.
It's just they're hard to find.
They're hard to find, but I think and people could argue, well, Brennan moved because he told her this. No,
No,
I don't believe that at all. I think you knew this. I think it was aligned. I think it was something. And I think when you see someone who has a gift about this and it's a true gift,
yeah,
I think it's just aligned because it's not like you had shared that with anybody. It's not like you had even shared it with your mom. You
yeah,
just kind of felt my time here is probably at the end.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I think it's a gift and I think it's really amazing. And I think it's really amazing the things that he shared about your brother too. I mean, like, yeah, I connect with that. I don't know if you've heard this part of my episode when I went to see a medium, but it took me many years,
To
Brennan, like
go.
you, it took
Yeah.
me many years. And my brother's story was very public, right? So
Yeah.
it's like I was very apprehensive. So I
Mhm.
sent the inquiry and the booking from an email that nobody would ever know who I was.
Yep.
And I talk about this on the first season. The first couple minutes or so, he was connecting with my grandparents that have passed, and I didn't have a connection with them. And so it was probably about the first 5 to 10 minutes. I'd have to go back and look at the recording now,
Yeah.
but I was like, oh God. So I was like, okay, this is a wash. I spent all this money, like whatever, because I was so skeptic, and you get so cynical when you lose someone, right? So it's like,
Absolutely.
you connect with that too, right? So it's like, and then all of a sudden it just, my brother came in like a force of nature, and then it
Yep.
like blew my mind. I said nothing the whole thing. Anyway, I tell the whole story on the first season, so I don't like to bore you guys on other episodes with this, but I connect with you on this, and I appreciate you sharing this, and I appreciate you sharing that it changed everything for me, because I was like, wow. I mean, he just nailed it, and it just, I think it's amazing that you had that. I mean, like, it was like, wow, he knows what I'm like thinking, and you're moving
Yeah.
to Vegas. And so I'm really happy for you, but I would love to hear too. So again, advice again from Brennan and myself. Please do your research if you're going to go that spiritual
Please.
route. Please do your research, because not all are created equal. But you mentioned earlier, and like I told you, I wanted to dial in on this too, your mom and your dad and how they grieved so differently. And the other aspect you have too is like you're the only surviving sibling.
Yeah.
And we have so many people that listen into my lives, our groups, things like that. And they're the only surviving siblings. So I'd love for you to do kind of two things for us, Brandon, if you don't mind. Share a little bit about your dad and how he grieved, as much as you're comfortable with.
Mhm.
Because I mean, it sounds a lot like the rebuilding of the house. That was the grieving journey and the process for him, and you were there for him
Yeah.
during that. And then your mom, who's grieved differently, and I'd love to like, was one more of a talker? Does one talk more about it? Does one do more? You know what I mean? I'd love to hear that, and then also kind of share with us what it's like being the only surviving,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't have surviving siblings. You are a surviving sibling, but you don't have any other surviving siblings.
Mhm.
And that's, our group is, there's so many
Yeah.
siblings out there like you. So if you could share a little bit of that, of your story, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So my dad, I feel like it's such a man thing sometimes. He didn't talk about it much. I mean, like we would talk about Jackson. Don't get me wrong, we do. But it's not like in the day to day. It was definitely like I think we connected more with him spending time with me. I think that's what he needed. Like he wanted me near him. He wanted me to help him build this house. He wanted my opinion on things. Like he wanted me involved more than a daughter typically would be building their father's house. he uh he's definitely not a talker. He definitely keeps to himself more. My mom on the other hand, yes, we talk here and there, but I think I've had a hard time bringing it up. I think I've been terrified of making them cry, making them sad because their days have majority of their days are so dark that when we are having good days or good moments, it's hard for me to like bring it up and get into it with them sometimes. And I've through the years, I've also realized that is not necessarily the best way to go about it, even for my own grief. But that's how it was at the very beginning. Like I would not call my mom and talk to her about it. They wouldn't call me and talk to me about it. It's like we were kind of afraid of upsetting each other, I feel like. But then when we would talk about it, like it would be great. We'd have these stories, but we'd all be boohooing, crying. And then it's like, okay, we gotta wipe our tears and get back, center ourselves again.
Mhm.
My mom, on the other hand, too, like she's taken a lot of time off work. She has struggled a lot with depression and with this, and which is 100% understandable. Her and I have a very unique relationship. She's actually my stepmom. She's raised me from the time that I was 6 years old. So she's my mom. My
Wow.
brother was her biological son.
Wow. Brennan.
Yeah.
Wow. This is incredible. I did not know this. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. What a beautiful relationship.
Very much. She has been one of the most amazing people I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
For sure.
I am blown away. Look, I mean, this is why you have to stay through the whole episode, because you
Yeah.
never know what we're going to talk about. Brennan, how beautiful. Did she like officially adopt you, or this has just been your mom and this is how you
Yeah.
like, is this like, what a journey? I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
have to ask
No,
this. I'm
you're
like,
good.
man,
You're
this is
good.
what a
We never
beautiful
got
mom. We love you. What a
we love
beautiful
you, Mom.
thing. Yeah.
We never got to the official adoption. My dad and her got divorced when I was 14, or separated when I was 14.
Right, as you shared with us earlier. Wow. Oh my
But
gosh.
I went and chose to live with her. Like, he knew she was my mom. Like, he knew the relationship that I had with her, and like, that's my mom. Like, it
But
takes a special.
I'm even more impressed with your dad and your mom about that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, that's wow,
That's
what a
crazy,
piece of the
huh?
story. It's a beautiful part of the
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
So
That's
it's been she's been amazing. And I think like that was a huge fear at first. It was like, where do I play into all of this now that there's nothing tying her to me necessarily? That was just like an instant irrational fear that I had.
that's why I wanted to dive into
Yeah.
this a little bit deeper. Yeah, so you felt a little bit from what you're sharing, you felt a little bit like, okay, my brother was the biological connection. So
To
is this
us.
going to change things with my mom? And
Yeah.
it clearly did not.
It didn't. It definitely didn't. I struggled being lonely at first because like I wanted my parents to be there for me too. Like I wanted the effort to come to me instead of just being from me. So like that also tied in with just like having a hard time talking about it with them too. Was like I didn't feel like my grief would necessarily be up to par, the same level, because it's not, but it is.
Right. So
So
how did you deal with that, Brennan? Because that's something you've brought up a couple times, and it's something that comes up all the time too. So I'm so glad we're talking about this.
yeah,
And I understand there's like another layer with this too, with this not
yeah,
being your biological mom, but this is your mom. I'm a
yeah,
very spiritual person, and so
same.
your mom is your mom, your dad is your dad, and that's however it comes
Yeah,
to be. But like this is going to help so many people, you being so open and sharing
yeah.
about this. And it's so cool that you moved with your mom. I'm just so into this story. But how did you navigate this though? Because this is, I will tell you, Brennan, as you've probably known from hanging out on TikTok with us, it's a top question I get every single week. How do I deal with the fact that I can't talk to my mom or my dad, or like, how do I help my mom or my dad? Like, fill in the blank, right? How do I
Yeah.
help them? You went through this. How did you evolve, right? Because you are sharing how you felt like you couldn't talk to them, but now you're in a different place all these years later.
Mhm.
So, where are you now with it? Because it seems like you guys are in a different place with it. And you seem so understanding or respectful of, like, yep, this is where my dad is. He didn't want to talk about it, but he wanted me
There.
physically there with him,
Yeah,
which is a beautiful thing. And I want everybody to understand that this is very common for the male mentor in our life,
for
whether
sure.
it's dad, stepdad, whatever. That's very common, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's so insightful that you saw and you realized, and looking back on that, you're like, dad just wanted me there. It was like we needed to spend time. Mom, I didn't feel like I could talk to even her about it then, but like now we can talk about it, and like now we've done this move and I'm with her too. But like, where are you now with them and being able to talk about it? And also, I would give you a second part of the question too. What advice would you give to people who feel like they can't talk about it
Yeah.
to their parents?
Definitely, like I said, I struggled. It's just doing. I think I had gotten so angry with not being able to say my piece and own my truth with it. I went from looking up videos on TikTok, Googling different things, trying podcasts, just like trying, listening to music and songs, like trying to like connect and feel heard or feel seen or feel like I related to somebody to some extent. And I was fed up. I was fed up with I didn't feel like I was being true to myself. So I just started talking about him. As I decided to stop worrying about, like, especially when I meet somebody new and the question is, do you have any siblings? Well, yes, I do. I do have a brother. He was killed 6 years ago, but I do have a brother. Like, in so many words or less. I try not to make it a trauma thing, but because it's part of my story. And if you can't get to know me, if you want to meet me and you want to ask that question, then you better be prepared for the answer one way or another. Like, not that it's a bad thing, but it's like, I feel like it's definitely made it a lot easier to talk about, a lot easier to joke and make jokes. Like, I talk to my brother all the time and make jokes to him too. Like, it's definitely made it a lot easier and brought a little lightness, more light to the situation than just the dark, unforbidden topic. I definitely make it a point to say that, even when talking to my friends, like if I am struggling, if it's close to an anniversary or anything like that, I let them know, like, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm struggling with. At least I'm giving them the opportunity to save space for me and to show up for me, because for the longest time I didn't. I was okay. I acted like I was okay. So then, yeah, I started to feel alone because it didn't feel like anybody was trying to be there for me. But in reality, I was really good at putting on a show. And it's not something that you can do alone by any means. To anybody listening, it's not something you can do alone. Whether you have one person or 5 people in your life that you can talk to about, or just that will hold space for you, you need to utilize that space for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And what I'm hearing from what you're saying too is like, I feel like you became your own advocate, which I
Yeah.
think is so important for especially all of us,
Yeah.
but especially siblings who are the only surviving sibling like you, which is again, this is a great episode for only surviving siblings to listen
Yeah.
to, because you are trying to kind of be it all for your parents,
Yeah.
right? There's so much pressure on that. And so I love what you said, where you kind of just turned a corner. You're like, you know what? If I don't open up and start talking about how I'm feeling, no one else is going to ask me to do it. And it's not because mom is a bad mom or dad is not talking. It's they're doing the best they
They
can.
can.
So
Yeah.
it's up to me to advocate and talk about it. And you know what? If it's a little uncomfortable for them, okay. Or if it's a little uncomfortable but for this person, that's okay. But like, I need to advocate. And that's what I love about what you're sharing. And I love the fact that you're also saying this to your friends, because this
Yeah.
is a big thing that comes up too,
Yeah.
is like, hey, my friend didn't remember this or remember that. Well, you know what? I love the accountability
And
that
I've
you took
struggled
in
with that
this.
too.
Right. But what I love what you said though, Brennan, is you were like, but I wasn't also showing them that I wasn't okay. So look, as we know, some
Mhm.
friends are going to be crappy about this whole
Yeah.
situation. Okay. But if you're not being honest and open and saying, this is really hard for me, I'm going through this, maybe we're not giving them the full opportunity. It's a 50-50 kind of thing. Look, if they don't show up after that, then let them go. It's
Yeah.
not worth it. We know we've been through such a significant loss. Life is short. But I love how you're examining and saying, maybe I haven't been open enough. Maybe I haven't shown them. So let me do this. I think that's a really great perspective,
Yeah.
especially for those of us who are the only surviving sibling in the fam. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Brennan, before I close out and talk about where people can find you, is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to share with us about your grief journey, or any advice you want to share, or anything about Jackson we didn't touch on?
Yeah. Like, just, I think the last thing I want to close out with is just remember to give yourself some grace as well. You can't be so hard on yourself. I think I spent the first 4 years being my own worst critic, the hardest person on myself out of anybody with it, and dealing with a lot of anger. And it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be sad. Just remember that you are human and you have to show those emotions in order to let it out. If you bottle it up, it's just going to turn into an ugly monster that is harder to take care of at the end of the day, without a doubt. And make sure you listen to your tornado warnings.
Little disclaimer too.
Yes, there's a difference. A warning and a watch. A warning, it is ready. It is here.
Yeah, do you want to tell us the difference real quick to bring a little
Yeah.
levity to it? Yeah,
So
what is the difference? Because I as a kid, I don't know if everyone knows this. So fun fact, I lived in Minnesota and we learned then, I'll never forget, a tornado went right over our house. We watched it and it touched down Brennan. The street across from us wiped out the entire neighborhood. I'll never forget going over there, bringing food, like stuff like that. It was really wild. And now the majority of my family actually lives in the Midwest again. So it's definitely a thing. So tell us, what is the difference between a warning and a watch?
Yes. So a warning will be the conditions are just right, that they are watching for funnel clouds, any type of sign that could indicate that a tornado is about to start. A warning is there has been one that has touched ground. They're active signs of a tornado, whether it's winds, speed, things like that. Like a warning is, it means take cover immediately. Yeah. The watch is just be ready, be prepared.
Right. Right. Warning means it's real, guys. So like it is what it
like
is. Yeah.
You should have already been safe.
Right. No, I think that's why I love telling these stories and share. I mean, you guys tell the story, I just facilitate it, and it's so important. And I'll never forget that moment. It's so ingrained in my life when that tornado came right. I'll never forget watching it from our basement and it wiped out our neighborhood next to us. It's something, I was 9-10 years old. Never forget this stuff. I mean, that was couple decades ago. We're not going to go into that right now. But Brennan, tell us where, because I know you guys are going to connect with Brennan if you're the only surviving sibling or if you lost a sibling in a similar way. So where is the best way to reach you? Are you a social girl, or would you rather like a social media girl, or would you rather folks emailed you if they connected with your story? What's best for you? And we'll put it in the show notes as well.
I think it's great, as well as email. That works too.
Great. So what's your Instagram handle and what is your email? We'll put it in the show notes, but if you want to call it out for them, that'd be great.
Instagram is Brennan Salter, just the first and last name. And then the email is brennanlsalter@gmail.com.
Perfect. And we'll put it in the show notes as well. Brennan, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for sharing Jackson with us and everything that happened with your family. And I'm so sorry for your loss, but thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much, Maya. Thank you for creating this safe space for us to be able to talk about it. It's really helpful, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Surviving Siblings podcast. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did creating it for you, then share it on your chosen social media platform. And don't forget to tag us at Surviving Siblings Podcast so that more surviving siblings can find us. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Surviving Siblings Podcast. All links can be found in the show notes, so be sure to check those out too. Thank you again for the support. Until the next episode, keep on surviving, my surviving siblings.